I'd like to welcome you guys to part 3 of Starting Over. In the previous parts, I kind of covered starting over from the standpoint of people that may be in their late 20s or early 30s. Um, and after having a conversation with someone, thought it'd be a good idea to kind of talk about people that may be a little older or maybe even divorced. Um, and so kind of want to give you a little bit of that perspective.
I wanted to actually chime in actually on that, and the things I was really encouraged by after seeing the video was the end of that conversation. But I just want to take it a step further and say that want to talk about actually being together with somebody over 20 years, actually over 30 years, and having to start over again. I've talked with several people that's actually been married for 30 years that's over the age of 40, maybe even in their 50s, and having to start over uh, as far as finding somewhere else to live, uh, learning how to even actually do their own clothes, go shopping for themselves, uh, even cook for themselves. There's so many different facets in there. And also, and we'll talk about this too later on in the conversation about actually starting over and being excited to start over after the age of 40. Talking to a lot of individuals that have gotten divorced at the age of 40 and starting over, the excitement about new things with different people is different segments. Talk with some individuals, they are heartbroken about, and they actually don't even know which way to go. A lot of men, for example, depend on women so much, especially the more years that they're together, to pay the bills, do their clothes, buy their clothes, to actually hold an itinerary for them. We tend to depend on women for a lot of things that they don't see. We're great as men as bringing the money in and letting the wives or girlfriends, whoever your significant other may be, to actually do the other parts of that, and to actually not have them to do that, to even say what time that we need to be, or even to say what time we need to pay the light bill, or even how to pay the light bill, because we may have not even paid the light bill in 20 years. We don't even know how to pay the light bill anymore because we have waited on, or we have depended on that other person to do that. Also of the whole aspect of moving out, getting a place. We were good at that. 9 times out of 10, we have facilitated the money. A lot of times, the wives would actually find the place, and we would go and sign the dotted line where they told us to dot it. So we don't even know how to do that. The part about actually, the other part I want to talk about too was the anticipation of starting over again, and after getting out of a 20-year relationship and saying, I have my whole life ahead of me. And I've talked to gentlemen about changing their whole wardrobe. They're no longer wearing couples clothes anymore. They're wearing single people clothes. And you can actually tell the difference, they're combing their hair a different way. They have a different cologne on. Their walk is a little different. Their conversation is a little different. Some guys that's over the age of 40, they get a sports car. They want to try different things to recapture. A lot of time they feel like they have lost. They want to get a bachelor pad, bachelor clothes, as I love to say, dye their hair, their speech changes, but I found out, and it's just the same as being younger in relationships. We still need some downtime to actually really figure out which way we really want to go. A lot of the things that we did when we were younger come into play as we're in 40 or plus, but we learn how to handle them a lot better now than we did when we were younger. For as being angry about the breakup after 20 years, probably at 20 we're a lot more hostile, but at 40 we tend to realize that we had both given our all. The pain has kind of lessened a little bit, you know, versus at a younger age, you know. And then, you know, want to talk about also if there are kids involved. A lot of times we have kids that have been there ever since they were maybe babies, and they're now in their 20s. You know, where we go to their functions as still a couple, where we go in as two individuals, bring another individual with them. I've talked to several different people, and they have their other person with them, and they're at their children's events, maybe a dinner, a recital, whatever, coming in, maybe not speaking to each other, maybe speaking to each other, the kids not knowing which way they should go. Some usually side with one parent or the other one, maybe not speaking to one, maybe speaking to the other one. That's why I say sometimes it's a great cooling off period, and sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. It depends on the individual. I've seen it go both ways. To say which is right, which is wrong, it really depends on that individual and where they are more comfortable with. I've seen guys that, like I said before, dye their hair, get the young people clothes, or let me rephrase that, single people clothes, start hitting the dating scene, usually looking for a younger significant other so they can show off to the ex, look how good my life is now versus how it was with you, and vice versa. You know, usually we'll see that with a younger guy, and we're like, God, how can she do that? She's got the same, he's just as old as our oldest kid, you know? And then there's that competitive spirit between the two. And then also then you have couples that they're best friends. They're not together anymore. You know, they're doing their own thing. A lot of times they said, well, we stayed in a relationship. We knew it was over 3 years into it, but we had kids. We needed to stay in it to give the kids a better life. Because you have to think, things tend to change when people that are 40 now, when they were younger, their predecessors didn't get divorced. So they tend to stay in it for the kids. So they did the same thing, where now generation, they're crossing out the I's and dotting the T's and saying this thing is over. And so after 40 and the kids are gone, or they just decided that they can't do it anymore, so they decide to move on. I've talked with several different, on both perspectives. A lot of men, and it's so scary for men that have had to rely on women for everything. Because, you know, we don't want to admit it, but we rely on women for so much more than just sex. You know, we don't want to say it, but they become our mothers. In a perspective of, they do a lot of things that our mom did for us. And then when they're no longer there, we're like, oh God, what are we going to do now? You know, and that's where the frightening comes in. So we try to find somebody quickly to take their place, you know, sometimes we try several different ones. Mostly we're looking for younger girls, and we'll pay for whatever just to show them off that we're okay, and we're not. And then we have also the men that sit at the house and just wither away. They don't want to go out. They don't want to do nothing. A lot of them sit at home and just drink themselves to death. And never ever try anything, because they don't know what to do with themselves anymore for their life. Because their whole life was centered around the relationship, the marriage, the children, and once they're gone, they don't know what to do with themselves. So it's frightening.